Salvador rose from the table, walked out of the room and up a creaky flight of stairs. About a minute later he returned, holding in his hands what appeared to be a small stone box. He placed the box on the table on which we had been eating, and for a while said nothing. The box was indeed stone, but it had perplexing ornate markings all along its exterior. I recognized them immediately as being the same strange hand that decorated my medallion. And in the center of the top of the box was the most amazing thing of all, a deep, crescent-shaped hole, a hole that was an exact fit for my old medallion.
"This box,"
said Salvador,
"is the secret that I spoke of. You were the first person other than myself to see it in maybe 1,000 years, and I think you know why I have shown it to you."
My medallion?
Yes, you recognize it too.
The hole?
You mean the lock. Go ahead, Esteban. Open it.
What's inside?
I do not know. Nobody does, Esteban. Open it, please.
I took the box in my small hands and lifted it towards me. It was a great deal heavier than I had expected, and I almost dropped it from the surprise. Salvador visibly flinched. We both laughed. I placed it in front of me, and then, very cautiously, removed my medallion from around my neck. I never took off my medallion, not even for washing and sleeping. My body felt eerily light without it. I positioned the medallion so that the etched rays corresponded with the shining sun symbol located within the crescent of the moon, and then, my heart pounding, I pushed it into the lock. It was a fit smoother than any key I had ever used. At first, nothing happened, but then, about 3 seconds later, there was a heavy click.
Turn it.
I tentatively turned the medallion in my hands, and with it, the entire circular symbol of the crescent moon and the sun within it rotated accordingly. I heard a latch slip, and the box opened before us with a heavy sigh, as if it was breathing out the enchanted air of eons past. Salvador looked on, agape as he looked inside. Covered in dust, but still quite visible, was a beautifully cut and exquisitely crafted green stone disc. The disc seemed to depict some kind of island, a large circular island with a peculiar peninsula emanating from its top corner. Salvador reached forward and took the disc in his hands. Inspecting the reverse side, he revealed another depiction of a different island, a group of smaller islands as it appeared on the stone. At last, he spoke.
Remarkable. It is more than I could have hoped. The royal seal of an Atlantean king.
A what?
An Atlantean king, my boy. Do you realize what this means?
What is Atlantean?
That means, Esteban, that he heralded from the lost continent of Atlantis. Have you never heard of it?
Never.
Well, in that case, be seated, young Esteban, for I must tell you the tale. So maybe you, like I, will come to understand the significance of your medallion, and indeed yourself. Long ago, Esteban, when the world was still young, the continent of Atlantis lay in the center of a great sea, far beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which are today known as the Strait of Gibraltar. Atlantis was a great and prosperous nation, possessing knowledge and technology far beyond even the fevered dreams of today's most advanced minds. The Atlanteans were known throughout the world as the greatest seafarers ever to sail. Not that they sailed at all. Their ships would travel without the aid of wind or oar, and were many times faster and larger than the strongest of galleons, holding thousands of men at a time. Not only were they masters of the sea, But it was also rumored that they had created magnificent flying machines, the like of which the world has never seen since. Mysterious craft that silently soared through the heavens like birds, from which one could look down and see all the lands of earth laid out beneath him as though he were the creator himself. Harnessing this power, the Atlanteans were able to trade with every tongue, in every port of every nation on Earth, and prospered greatly. But their prosperity was owed to more than just their superior scientific knowledge. The rulers of Atlantis also possessed deep knowledge of the ancient mysteries and were a nation of powerful magicians, skilled in the arts of alchemy, astrology, and numerology. The great philosopher Plato said they even had power over the cycle of our sun. And as their power grew, so did their pride. And with pride comes envy. And the high priests of Atlantis, being but mortal men, began to grow jealous of the gods. And so, in anger and despair at their fleshly doom, the conceited souls of Atlantis would foolishly declare war on the heavens themselves. What had been the home of skilled craftsmen and powerful magicians became the abode of malicious warlords and wicked sorcerers. And it was in this time of upheaval, Esteban, that the rulers of Atlantis devised their final solution: the creation of a machine which had the power to transform man into God. Legend says that this machine was only in use for but one night, and that only a handful of souls made the journey. But their spirits were so corrupted, and their hearts so wicked, that they brought darkness upon the entire earth for a day and a night. And then, in their infinite wrath, love, and mercy, the gods of this world put an end to the continent of Atlantis in a single night. The earth shook, the great temples crumbled, and the land belched fire and smoke. The waves of the great surrounding sea engulfed Atlantis' cities and its people wholly and without distinction. Man, woman, and child were put to death, and Atlantis breathed no more.
So how could this box have survived if everything was destroyed?
Not quite everything, Esteban. You see, long before the night of the great catastrophe, many of the priests and people of Atlantis received warning of what was to befall their great nation. So they built great ships and arks that were to survive the coming storm, and populated them with the best, brightest, and most uncorrupted men and women that Atlantis still possessed. On the night of the deluge, these ships set sail for the four corners of the earth to start anew. And so, all over the world today exist countless Atlantean outposts, secret, hidden, and waiting to be discovered. This box you see here is from one of these outposts. I recovered it 3 years ago whilst exploring a vast network of caves beneath the forests of Eastern Europe. And you can see, the seal inside bears the insignia of two distinct locations. One I believe to be the continent of Atlantis itself. Here you see the single larger, more circular island. This island I cannot identify, even with my extensive knowledge of geography and cartography. The map on the reverse, however, is much more recognizable. It is undoubtedly a collection of islands known as the Galapagos, which lie far to the west, beyond the New World.
How can you be so sure?
Why, because I have walked on them, my dear lad. Believe it or not, I used to be something of an explorer myself. I have long suspected that the greater outposts lay in the west, and now this seal confirms it. Ah, if only I had known then what I know now, that there was an ancient Atlantean outpost on that very island. Such cruel irony.
But how did a box from the New World end up in Eastern Europe?
Who knows for sure?